Welcome to another episode of the Skytale Insights podcast. I'm Annie Robertson Hockey, president of Skytale Group, and I'm so excited to be here today with Zubin Meshginpoosh, who is president and CEO of Senté, which is a regenerative skincare company that we are going to talk all about today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for coming all the way from Atlanta. It's a treat to have you, and I know Dallas is not making it easy on you with the weather this week. So you are a trooper.
Not bad. Yeah, Atlanta's got the same thing going on.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, you spent, just kind of starting off, with you and your story a little bit. You spent years on the private equity side of aesthetics, running an Altis through its sale before you took on Senté as CEO. Can you just talk a little bit about that path and how you've taken some of those operating lessons and experiences into running really the day-to-day of a growing skincare company?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate that the partners that were at Health Edge, the small PE group, were very hands-on, but in a good way. And they had a bench of operators, not just myself, but others, and that would make up like the operating committee and all that. Yeah. And so it was a great learning environment, definitely. And I would say the biggest thing that really take from that and continue to use is really, it's all about operational excellence and focus. And it's just, boil it down, what are the three things that are going to move the needle, that are really going to drive, obviously the sales and where you want to go with the company. And the rest is just noise, right? Focus on those 2, 3, 4 things. It should not be a massive number though, right?
Yeah.
And then you build your plan around, okay, if those are the three things that are really going to drive and transform this business and take us to where we want to go, then what are those input metrics behind that you need to and know you can impact, right? And that's where you put your time and resources, energy, and funds. And when you're in a leadership role, a lot of it's just keeping people focused.
Yeah, totally.
Tons of outside,
including yourself.
Yeah, including myself, and you, hopefully the team keeps you in check as well, because it's easy to get distracted. There's tons of outside noise, and particularly in the aesthetic space and medicine in general, but more so with aesthetics, the physicians always have their idea of like your brand or molecule or in where it should be used and how, and want to take off and running in different directions. And it's hard to say no to physicians, right? I mean, some of them are your advisors, some are just big accounts or whatever, and you want to hear them, obviously, and there's great ideas that come from that, but sometimes it's so tangential to what you're doing that it becomes a distraction, right? And so you always have to come back to, does it fit within one of these three categories, and initiatives or strategic initiatives behind those three that are really going to move the needle. And if not, then you've got to have that discipline to say no.
Yeah, totally. Are you able to share what those three things are for you all right now?
Yeah, I mean, for Senté, where we're at, we're after a few years of kind of clean up and restructuring the business in the right way and getting it prepared for growth and for an infusion of capital.
Yeah.
The biggest driver is our physician channel, and we're in a position now to continue to scale that back up and grow. So very thoughtfully, where do we want to add heads? We're not going to add a ton. We're not, we have no plans to get to 80 to 100 sales professionals out there. But there's key markets that we know we have business now that is just underserved, or areas of opportunity that we want to add people. So the physician channel and that growth, and what does that look like? That's number one. Yeah. And that really does even build and fuel the online channel, because we have a pretty complex molecule, very driven in science and clinical studies, and that takes some explanation, right? And the consumers want that validation from the practices to understand, okay, yes, this is legitimate, and this is how it's going to help me and achieve my goals and have my best skin. So the physician channel really drives it. But then in the online channel, there's really the two pieces. our DTC channel. How can we use that to help supplement the physician patient base and the revenues coming from there in a complementary way, and not competitive to the physicians.
Totally.
Because we don't want to steal their business. We want to support it and supplement it.
Yep.
And then, the other is kind of the all other e-commerce partners, but within that, there's a way to do it. And what we always say is we want to meet the consumer where they want to buy.
Right.
And how do we do that?
Right.
In a complementary way. And yes, some people think Amazon's evil. For us, we wanted to control it, and so that's one of the initiatives, is really controlling that, making sure there's no diversion, no price discounting, things like that, and maintain our brand and price integrity, so that physicians don't have to worry about patients finding it cheaper somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, those are really the three things that we're drilled into.
Yeah. I think, the channel conflict piece being key. Back when I was a little baby consultant at Bain, we did a study or a case for a multi-level marketing company that needed to go omni-channel. And it was sort of huge effort to, convince the consultants, is what they call those sellers, sort of like the Mary Kay model, if you will.
Yeah.
Is, the key was, you will be more able to sell if there's recognition around your brand. Like, in a way, we're actually helping promote the brand around you, so that when you go to, potential customer, it's easier to convert them. And I think that works as long as there's no pricing difference.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes really hard, is if someone can go to Amazon, which is growing. Skincare, their skincare category grew 10% last year.
Yep.
And I say that those are brand storefronts, not the sort of world of dupes and like sort of the scary ecosystem of, things that are maybe made in China.
Yeah.
But the pricing, I think, integrity is key.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that the patients find the best value overall with our brand within the physician practices. So, having access to travel sizes or premium samples, so they can experience other SKUs that maybe they're not familiar with. And of course, like some of the fun stuff like GWPs around the holidays and nice bags that come with it and things like that. Those are exclusive to the physician channel, because we want them to own that patient relationship, because they're the ones educating the patients.
Yeah. And when you say physician channel, is that pro? Is that that's med spa, that is derm, that is plastic surgery?
Exactly.
Are you equally focused on those segments right now, or is there one that is seeing particular growth, for example?
I would say, at the 30,000 foot level, you can say, the med spa channel in particular is really growing.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see, estheticians that, are very well trained, becoming business owners of their own. And those types of med spas where there's esthetician owners or nurse practitioner owners is really expanding and growing. And, they are very open to the idea of, hey, skincare can be a meaningful revenue stream and repeatable revenue stream in between some of the different procedures or one-off procedures they might be doing. But of course, the dermatologists and plastic surgeons, they're just as important as well. We partner with them to do our clinical studies, so that we have physician-led clinical studies all of the time with any of the products that we launch. So at a high level, you would say, okay, maybe it's more like those med spas that are really starting to grow more and more and more.
Yeah.
But when you get into it, it's more within the territory level and at the practice level. There's some that are just much more savvy in retail than others.
How much, and that's such a focus, I think, even for this conversation, I think part of the focus really is, how do you make retail a part of your business strategy?
Yeah.
Because in a perfect world, it should be 10-15% of your revenue, right?
Exactly.
It's a huge lever, and it also ensures results, right? So it ensures that the laser that you do, the recovery is easy and effective. When you're selling new accounts, to what extent are you pushing that, like, not pushing, but highlighting, featuring kind of that commercial piece, or, for whether it's a, SD owner, an MD owner, a PA, RN owner, is it more driven on the molecule, the technology, the results? Like what resonates most?
Great question. I would say to start the molecule and the science and the technology and how this molecule impacts overall skin health but that's kind of the buy-in, right? And everybody has their story. Of course, we feel we've got the best story because we do have a unique patented molecule that is only found in Senté, and it really is at the heart of biology and hence the regenerative skincare kind of buzz. We like to say we're kind of the OG regenerative molecule before we were even talking about it. But you still have to paint that picture as far as what does that mean to the patient? Where does this complement what they're doing in the practice that's bringing people in? Because a lot of times, patients aren't going into a practice for the sole purpose of, particularly the first time, right? Oh, I'm going to go find a med spa or a dermatologist to buy medical grade skincare.
Yeah, of course.
No,
Yep.
Particularly now, they can find that online. They can do their research and find it online.
Yeah.
So they're not walking in there necessarily expecting to buy skincare. So you have to be able to clearly, demonstrate how your brand helps to complement what they're doing in there. To your point, like, is it, to help prep the skin before a laser and then help to, speed recovery afterwards and help with the redness and inflammation, or if they have certain skin conditions like hyperpigmentation or rosacea, how can that product help with some of those visible signs and symptoms that they're experiencing, complementing a procedure that they're doing, and creating that overall patient experience and articulating that to the accounts. I think that's what's most important. That's going to keep the product selling.
Right. It has to be cohesive with the rest of their. Yeah, I think that's. I always say that, because folks are like, okay, what does it take to make the perfect med spa? I'm like, okay, well, it turns out there's no one size fits all model, or else I wouldn't have a job. But it really has to resonate with your business strategy, your patient base.
Yes.
The look and feel of your practice, the other products you're offering, all sorts of things.
Completely, yeah. And to me, I say getting the first sale isn't the hardest part. It's the second and the third, the pull through really and it's a function, like I said, of demonstrating clinically why it's a benefit to those patients and how they're serving those patients, how it complements that. But then it's also overall brand marketing. The practices are trying to, they're not trying to market skincare necessarily out to the public and draw people in. Their focus from a marketing standpoint or branding standpoint should be, messaging their value proposition, right, as far as how they're going to take care of the patient, why it's so special to come to them versus others. And that doesn't necessarily talk to any one brand, right?
Right.
It's up to the brands really to help create that awareness. So when a patient goes in, if that brand's on the shelf, like Senté's on the shelf, they go, I heard about that. I watched that podcast with so-and-so or whatever.
Yeah.
And they know and want to learn more because they feel it could be a fit. And then it starts that conversation.
Yeah. Do you have any metrics around, potentially at the provider level, but even more at the patient level, like if they buy a product, the same product 3 times, they're a customer for life? Or do you have any metrics around kind of where that you have that in?
It is that third time. And I think it translates regardless if it's online or in a practice. At the end of the day, it's that consumer behavior. But if you look at a lot of the data, and not just our own online store, but any online e-commerce selling skincare or what have you, any kind of consumable that you repeat, the first purchase, obviously that's the most difficult to get. But then the second one is the key because in broad numbers, out of the people that buy the first time, maybe a quarter to a third, at least for us, are buying a second time.
Right.
But if they buy that third time,
it just becomes
it's like 60, 70+% where they just keep coming back.
Yeah.
So it's, how do we get them to experience the brand and come back again for that second and third? Because to your point, once they do, then they're hooked.
Yeah. It's actually the same for patients.
Yeah.
And so if, I think there's so much focus, obviously on acquiring that patient, but I think it's so easy to forget that making sure they come back not once, but actually again that third time, then they're yours. It's really amazing how the retention just kind of spikes after that third visit, where you've clearly become their go-to source for various treatments.
And I think, and I mean, speaking more on like the patient and practice side of things, I think that's why you want to avoid being transactional. It can't just be about, we're running a discount or special, or always like running something to get people in. And that's why we don't like to do discounting online, because we know people are always just looking for that, but we really want to make sure they understand there's a reason that at least a few Senté SKUs should be part of their skincare journey, their regimen. And why is that? Because they will see the overall value over the course of their skincare for however long that lasts, if they stick with it.
Yeah. Very unfortunately, none of my skincare products never are discounted. So, I'm a full price gal, and one of yours is on my list for sure as well. SkinSpirit.
Yes.
You landed. I actually don't know how recently, but I walked into a SkinSpirit, I think about a year ago, and saw you on the shelves, and that's an incredible account. I think you're and SkinSpirit's nationwide.
Yeah.
Tell me about that account and how you landed that, and the process.
They're phenomenal, honestly. I would say, when you think about a group that gets it right, they do a lot of things right. Their branding, when you walk in, and I've visited quite a few around the country, every time you walk in, you're in a SkinSpirit.
I know, it's not amazing.
You're in a SkinSpirit, and it's the same type of experience. They do a phenomenal job training everybody from, the first person that you see when you walk in through their providers. So as far as our journey with them, a credit to Dr. Dean Visness. He was the founder, still very much involved, and now, his role really is evaluating with the rest of their clinical team, and they have a group that evaluates all products, procedures, whatever it is that come in, and it's significant vetting.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's not just on a whim.
Yeah.
And so it really, and he's very active at going to the trade shows, sitting in on all the different lectures, keeping abreast of what's going on. And it was probably almost a year-long process, I bet, as far as meeting with him, meeting with his team, painting the picture of, hey, this is why you need Senté in there, what it's going to do for your patients. And then also, because they are, they don't go super broad as far as, some where they might have 18 different brands. They don't go super broad, which is smart, because you don't want to overwhelm the patient. You just want to make sure, to your point, you have the breadth of brands and SKUs that will complement what you're doing and support your patients. And so they're very particular, but demonstrating that how you're going to support and train and educate and be there for them, and that it really is an ongoing partnership and relationship. And I think that's one of the things we do very well, even though we're small, is we focus on that relationship and being there, being that brand you can trust. And we're super flexible. They will come to us with ideas. Hey, we want to do this. Like, they just came to us with something for Q4. Hey, would you guys be willing to do this? Yeah, let's talk about that. Of course, we'll do this. They're a great partner of ours. I don't even like to say customer. They're a great partner of ours. Right. And we win together.
No, absolutely. I have incredible admiration for that brand, in part because Lynn did go to my business school. But more importantly, I think they are a standout in creating a nationwide brand that maintains its tier of a high-end presence rather than sort of like a mass market play. It's pretty impressive the way that they've been able to do that. That's so interesting, that feedback loop. That was going to be another one of my questions in terms of product innovation, because I'm sure that you all on the back end are thinking about what are changing patient and consumer preferences and trends and demographics, and how should that evolve what we're offering. To what extent are you from your many partners and of course your large partners like say SkinSpirit, to what extent are they pushing to you those insights of, have you considered this? Or we're getting this patient ask over and over and over again about this feature. Is that kind of a dialogue of yours?
It is, definitely. And we have, and not just SkinSpirit and Dr. Visnes, although he brings stuff to us all the time, which is fantastic. Like, I love it. And like I said, he's in a lot of lectures, and he's paying attention to trends, and not just trends from the consumer standpoint, but where research is driving and what's coming out of the research. He's very research driven, but some of our medical advisors, the dermatologists and plastic surgeons and estheticians that we trust, they'll come to us, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I think that's one piece of kind of pulling in information to understand, okay, where can we go, knowing what our vision for the brand is and who we are, and still staying true to that, but what would make sense. Right. And then some of it is kind of, okay, well, what's, it's kind of weird. I was thinking about it last night, but is it a chicken or the egg as far as research dictating what consumers are demanding, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And I think it's more the consumers ultimately. I think there's tons of research going on in all sorts of different areas, but I think then where the consumers are going is then what comes to the forefront out of that.
Right.
To me,
there has to be commercial viability.
Yes.
Right. It's like you can build an amazing offering, but if no one buys the thing and it doesn't land, there's a lot of R&D.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think so obviously with the regenerative skincare longevity, right? Certainly buzzwords right now going on.
Yeah.
But if you peel that back, it's more just about how do I keep my body and my cells, all throughout my body, operating at their best, and just help support them do their best, as opposed to foreign actives that aren't native to the body necessarily, but just making way for the human body to do what it does and operate as well as it can for as long as it can. And so you'll start to hear words like skin span. So how can I extend that period of time that my skin operates like 20-year-old skin?
Right.
And just supporting that, clearing out the garbage, if you will, like senescence, and removing senescent cells is a great example of that. But I think a lot of that started with just the consumer trend of wanting to look natural. You know, people, instead of, and back in the day, and not too long ago, it was people liked that overfilled look, right? Or the duck lip, like flip up for a little bit, and things like that. That now have kind of like people are moving away from that and just no, you know what? I want to age gracefully. Yeah. I just want to continue to look, my best that it can possibly be, but in a natural way.
Yeah.
And of course, some of that's celebrity driven too. I mean, you see more and more celebrities coming out speaking about that and kind of shying away from going under the knife all the time.
Right.
Or like super invasive procedures.
Or they're just getting, like more natural looking.
Or they've got some really, or they've got some fantastic, which is good. Or it's just less, right? I mean, there's, and I'm not. Some of my best friends are plastic surgeons. They would, so I don't want them to think that I'm saying no, nobody get plastic surgery. No, I mean there's certainly a place for it, but again, just to kind of supplement what patients are doing to keep them looking fresh, still natural, but just a graceful aging.
Yeah, I mean if you think about it, I think about this all the time, even in terms of we have like in society these fixed values of when you turn 40, this clocks in, or when you turn 60, this clocks in. And I've been thinking about all these things because lifespan is going up. And so 40 years old is like, that's prime of life, like as far as I'm considered. And you wonder if as our bodies, as our lifespan increases, just given the focus, I think, on, now cellular health, it's, I think like gut health, metabolic health, cellular health are things that I'm hearing a lot about these days. It makes so much sense that is transferring to skin.
Yeah.
Where yes, there's prevention and yes, there's sort of topicals, but if you actually just can make sure your cells on your skin are working the way they have before, that's really longevity.
Yeah, totally. And it's it might sound a little cliche, but this skin is your largest first line of defense. And, it helps to prevent and filter out those external stressors that, people might think that only impacts, skin deep, to throw out a bad pun, but but it doesn't. I mean, you can trigger that inflammatory cascade that then permeates throughout your body. I mean, when that inflammatory cascade kicks, I mean, that's a body-wide thing. It's not super centralized or localized. And so, it's and I was thinking about that too. 30 some odd years ago in my youth, right, was more into working out and, heavy weights and all that stuff, right? And you take these certain
every guy has them faced.
Right. But I see now, like, these skincare ingredients or supplements now that are more mainstream, and they're being talked about in the scope of or lens of longevity, right? But these are things like creatine. Totally. I mean, I guess I was taking creatine in college, but then you were thought of like as a muscle head or something, or mitochondrial support and boosting ATP production. Like, again, these were things that you walked into GNC and people thought you were cuckoo.
Yeah.
And totally. Now all of a sudden, I mean, like, there's a ton of cellular research coming out, and you're seeing these things in skincare or supplements now, but truly wellness, it's not about like, I'm trying.
No, it's funny because I have so many friends in the industry who understand all these nuances. And then I think very fortunately, I have a lot of friends who have no idea, could care less. And it keeps me balanced in a nice way, but I always go home and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking creatine now. And people are like, are you trying to be a bodybuilder? And I'm like, no, it's good for your brain. I don't know. The internet told me women need it for their brains. But yeah, it's our understanding of because I wasn't a 20-year-old boy trying to work out. So I didn't even know that these things were kind of categorized that way. Right. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's kind of a funny interpretation.
That's exciting to see.
Yeah.
Okay? I love that level of research and where it's heading, I think, is exciting, and I think I think there will be a massive kind of explosion on that, like across all fronts. That's not going to go away, and I think it'll translate into particularly the aesthetic practices, pulling more from the med spa type practices and being more holistic, right? Where you used to not see that. I mean, I remember very early on in my aesthetic career going into certain offices, and like a plastic surgeon would have creatine or some of these other supplements, oral supplements. Yeah. And that was unheard of. I mean, there's one or two practices around the country doing things like that, and looking at wellness in that way for skin beauty health as well, not just like inside or tone and things like that, but truly like your skin health as well. But now that's coming into the mainstream, so I think we'll see a lot of aesthetic practices with dermatologists and plastic surgeons migrating that way. If that's their business is aesthetics, like they'll have to learn these ingredients, understand these supplements, not just skin topical, but also oral or injection, GLP-1s obviously, or infusions that can be done that all helps their patient get to the goal they want to get to.
Yeah. It's amazing how I think, probably some still think this, but not too long ago, I think aesthetics, I'm just going to paint a broad umbrella, cosmetic, derm, plastics, et cetera. I think it was viewed as like unnatural, like putting something unnatural onto your skin or into your face or into your look. And especially with the younger generations who, we see really focus on skin rejuvenation. That's facials, that's microneedling, that's peels, and then energy-based devices, and oftentimes skipping injectables. Yep. I think it's very telling of kind of everything that we're talking about here.
Completely agree.
So it's flying off the shelf right now. So you have, you have, I think, a really nicely like reasonable number of SKUs, because I think there are some skincare lines where it can become really crowded. And I think to your point about a med spa can become really overwhelming. I know that you've recently launched a few things. I think vitamin C was new, but what is flying off the shelves for you?
For us, it's still, honestly, our dermal repair products. We have a few different dermal repair products, but as the name would speak, those really come to the core of helping to repair the skin barrier, modulate the extracellular matrix, and work with the different signaling proteins, messenger proteins, or inflammatory modulators that bring, the skin environment back to homeostasis. And the dermal repair line really does that best. Yes, all of our core products have our patented heparan sulfate analog, and that at the core is what's doing it. But the dermal repairs are really, that's still what flies off the shelf. Because it's a great multifaceted, multi-use type product. It's great for pre and post procedure, like microneedling or laser treatments, because of its ability to bring that skin back to homeostasis as soon as it possibly can. So that to this day, they're definitely the most popular.
Are there, and you don't have to name them, but are there any SKUs right now that you're keeping an eye on that you might eclipse? Like, have any fallen out of favor that once may have been quite popular? I know you haven't been around forever, but
it's a good question. I think you have to. I think we have some legacy SKUs that will probably go by the wayside, and because it's just not really necessarily fitting with the story that we're telling, and I think that's important. And I think there's other. And people think I'm nuts sometimes, but at trade shows when I get asked about certain products or a little bit more niche stuff, we have some of these legacy SKUs, but I'm like, who really makes a great, whatever, like neck product or something. I'm like, Revision does a great job. Check it out, And they're like, wow, well, I appreciate your honesty. So we know what we do well, and I think, for us and brands that start and are rooted in the physician science-driven space, it's hard to go, with a ton of different SKUs, because then it's hard to kind of stay true to what you're doing and where you want to be and position yourselves. Some brands, when of course, you get to a certain size and you get so big, and you're more of a consumer play, then it is important to launch different SKUs all the time, like 6-8 products a year or something crazy like that. And we know who those brands are, and that's the business model, because some of it is taking up, like, you want to take up shelf space, or with even online, there's still, in my mind, a shelf space, so to speak, as far as when people search and look. The more they see this one brand come up because of all the different SKUs that pop up in it, they're going to get more of the attention in that regard. So it makes sense if people are really focused on being a consumer brand. I get it. For us, that's not us.
So
you get we want to have a purpose.
I think you get into Sephora. I have a lot of friends who there's a very clear pipeline from Bain, San Francisco, into the Sephora headquarters in San Francisco, and they say that once they get a brand in, there's kind of a requirement for the number of SKUs that you need to develop. And for those brands, right, they're not in the professional channel. That's their channel. And so it's sort of it's just one of the necessities of keeping up, that you're consistently launching.
And with that, it's it's a shelf space kind of game, because that's also advertising when you go in there. If I worked for a brand where we had we had a presence in CVS and Walgreens, things like that, and it was how can we develop more SKUs and get them slotted in, because there's a set amount of physical space. So the more SKUs have means the less the competition has, and visibly you'll stand out more.
Get that corner spot.
And that's why you see some of the crazy packaging, because it takes up space, and if you can get it in there, you expand your footprint in that regard.
What are I imagine there are things in development all the time. What are you excited about in terms of sort of what's next for skincare? What are trends you're keeping an eye on? Are you going to Korea and studying all, how do you stay abreast of new trends, and what are you excited about?
Well, it's funny that you say Korea, but in general, there's a lot of, I just read a paper, and it's around the different metabolic pathways in the various skin cells. A very well-written scientific paper, and it came out of Thailand, actually.
Really? Oh, wow.
shout out to Patty Ferris, because she actually posted, and if listeners don't know who Patty Ferris is, she is a phenomenal dermatologist, a skincare junkie, skincare nerd, and she would appreciate being called a nerd because she is extremely smart and very well researched in all of the different molecules and ingredients that are in skincare.
Yeah.
And she posted the article actually on her Instagram account, and I saw it and I was like, oh, I got to read this, because Patty's posting it. This is legitimate science. And so, what I'm excited about is trying to develop products to address those different pathways at the cellular level, right? I think the challenge for everybody, brands like us or some of the other brands that are thinking about going that way, just like oral supplements, you don't necessarily visibly see that change for some time, right? Because and particularly if you're getting into it younger, you're just optimizing like your body's performance, those cells' performance that are already probably working well if you're in your 20s, 30s. And so you might not see crazy changes, particularly early on. So how do you articulate that to a consumer, or even to the practices that we're selling into? Like, how do you, and it comes down to the still clinical work that you can do, but now getting into, the ex vivo, in vitro type stuff, and doing it in an impactful way that says, yes, this is going to translate. This is what's happening. I liken it very much to the oral supplements, and
and we're both taking them.
Exactly.
We had dinner last night and we talked about it. We both spend too much money on supplements. We'll out ourselves now.
Yeah, and you sit there and wonder, like, is it doing something? But you have to go based on, how do you feel? And no different, and visibly, like, and I think over time, people absolutely will see, oh my gosh, my skin is glowing. It looks healthier.
Yeah.
But it's not, necessarily as tangible as if you do a study targeting people that have, like, rosacea or something like that, and you're using a topical active ingredient, and in 4 weeks there's an improvement in redness. This is definitely a mindset shift.
Yeah. The number of people I've asked if they can see the difference using that very high-end plated serum, I'm like, how do I justify it? How do I justify this? It's true though, and it's sort of thinking about it, like when you're talking to a customer, like the end customer, because you have two audiences, right? Like you have your pro, and then you have your customer. But for a customer, so you have a few things. Like you have your molecule, you have results, but we just talked about that. We want to hear about what results will happen, but it's actually hard to see. And then you have like the pathway of what's actually happening to make this all happen. What resonates, like, are you ingredient forward? Are you result forward? Are you pathway forward? Does that change based on the pro versus the actual end customer?
I think it's a lot more blurred now. I think because obviously with social media and the practitioners being present on social media in a good way, which is good because there's a lot of noise out there and a lot of misinformation. And so, people really want those trusted sources like the dermatologists, plastic surgeons, estheticians, these people that went to school and study and research. I think the line's blurred. I think if you look, 10 years ago, it really was much more results led, and not so much the ingredient story, but, and I remember, being in the field and being out there 20 years ago, and you walked in with before and afters first and foremost.
Yep.
Look at what our product does. Like, if your patients have this or that, or they should look at the fine lines and wrinkles improve. Okay, well, then tell me how it's working. And then you kind of, you backed in. But now, I think it's definitely shifted to like, okay, what are you actually doing? How are you helping the body? Yeah. And then translate that into results. Yes, you still have to have, before and after.
Like the causation is assumed.
But I think
that's the direction of the story.
Yeah. And I think now because of that, education being available to the patients or consumers online, I think they're also shifting that. So it's not just because there's a lot of different things that you can put on your skin and you'll see changes or improvements or look better. But I think they want to understand more of that underlying what's actually happening and what's sustainable and not just, I'm just going to, like there's some different silicones in here or silica, and it's going to literally spackle in my fine lines and wrinkles.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Right.
Yeah,
like
which is more
they want
cosmetics.
More than that.
Yeah, it's like, what is making me look better today?
Yeah.
Valid desire. What will make me better in 30 years down
Yes.
the line if I consistently use the product?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your ride or die product?
For me,
Yeah.
Our dermal repair Ultra Nourish.
Yeah.
That is by far, and I tell people this all the time. I mean, I've been with Senté 6.5 years. I've known Senté and I've met the founders when they first launched the business, and so I've been a fan since then, which we were talking over 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was dermal repair cream, and it's just because I knew about it and I liked it. It felt good and all that.
Yeah.
At a point in time, they had launched a product that was my favorite, and this still was probably a good 7-8 years ago. Hydroferm, phenomenal pressed serum, great for like deeper lines, wrinkles, laxities, things like that. But it had a nice feel to it too. And I thought, okay, this is a cool product.
Yeah.
But when we launched Dermal Repair Ultra Nourish, I was with the company at that point, is 2021. It's really truly the first skincare product where the second I touched it and put it on my face, I really was like, whoa, like geeking out about like, this feels amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and I never thought I would be saying that and have such a like, oh my gosh, type of response to a topical product. Yeah. But I really did. And even though it says Ultra Nourish, yes, it certainly is very hydrating, but it's a wonderful formula. It penetrates it so it doesn't sit on your skin and suffocate it.
Yeah.
As you know, I live in Atlanta, and right now,
you're suffocated
we're sitting
enough.
here. It's July 24th. It is very hot and humid, and I still wear that. I put that on every single day.
Yeah.
That's my choice, because even with the heat and humidity, it is. Yeah, that is my. I've got to have that product every day.
Yeah. Thank you for entertaining me.
Yeah.
Indulging me, I should say. Looking ahead 5 years, what does success look like for Senté?
So a much more broader presence than we have now. It's fun when people say, "Oh, I haven't heard of you before," but then because we have pockets where we don't have territory managers or what have you, and we don't have massive marketing budgets that we can really go full on blitz or big PR campaigns. Yeah. So we still come across plenty of people that haven't heard of Senté, and that's fun. But I think what success looks like 5 years from now is people will say, "Hey, yes, Senté, they're one of the legitimate regenerative, brands, a must-have to complement what I'm doing." Yeah. To me that's nirvana right there. Like I want people to understand like Senté is a very science-driven, clinically driven brand that delivers what we say it's going to do.
Yeah. I think both of us like a challenge, but also it feels really good when people know it. You do. I remember I was once in a chair at my med spa in San Francisco. Shout out to Dr. Rami at Alinea, who's wonderful. And in true form, I was interrogating him about his business and, like offering some nuggets. And he was like, "Have you ever heard about this company called Skytale?" And I think it was like one of the happier moments of my, professional moments at Skytale. So I get it.
That is fun.
Yeah.
I've been there with Biocornium was the first aesthetics business I was in, and even to this day, like people that don't know that I was with that brand, right? Mm-hmm. And that was my first foray with the PE group was that business. People will come up, "Hey, have you heard of Biocornium? Like, what do you think of it? So legit, is it?" It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's great.
Yeah, that's fun. What's your favorite part of your job?
Oh man, it's an easy one. It's gonna maybe sound a little cliche, but I'll share a couple stories. It is the people, and I've been fortunate that several businesses I've been in, just worked with some really great people. And you want, so I mentioned I'm with Senté 6.5 years. We have people, like our head of training, JP, has been with us, it will be 11 years next month.
Wow.
He's almost from day one.
Yeah.
Our head of sales, 10 years. Our director of national accounts, Tina, 10 years. It's a long, you don't see that, it's particularly in aesthetic sales, you see people jumping all the time, right? But for me, the joy is, getting to where we are now, and the traction that we're building, the momentum we're building, the growth we're starting to see now. They've been here and stayed with it, even through COVID and the lean times and stuff like that. And so, to me, the happiest moment is going to be in 5 years from now when everybody knows Senté, right? Mm-hmm. And it is the go-to. What that will mean for those folks that have been here putting their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And so, being able to impact people and develop them in that way, I still, and I don't fully understand it, but one of my proudest moments in my career was getting a random phone call from someone years after the fact that I had worked with them. But they called in the first word, say, "Hey, I just want to say thanks." And I'm like, what did I do? I haven't talked to you in years, right? And I was, what? Yeah. He's like, oh, you gave me this, we had this conversation or whatever, and I just got this job that I really, really wanted because I put this into play, and and it's because of what you said or whatever, right? And to me, that's what I love about working.
Yeah. That's like the mecca of people development of they go on beyond you.
Yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're successful, then that's absolutely the goal. The people that are around you eclipse you, and that's what I hope for.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, on that note, that's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a treat. I could talk to you much longer, but really thank you for coming in and sharing so much with us.
Thanks
today.
for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, fun.